The following is a presentation in the Control Trends Podcasting Network.
Here we go. Hi, welcome to Control Talk, now your smart buildings videocast and podcast for the week ending September 22nd, 2019. This is Eric Stromquist, where we talk about all things smart building controls, HVAC controls, and pretty much whatever's going on in the controls industry. And I say we a bit loosely this week because your co-host and mine, the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, Kenny Smyers, the secret agent man that he is off on another secret mission this week, leaving me alone, or almost alone, to get through this week's episode. But I'm not alone completely because I got two fabulous guests from Tridium. I've got Brent Lowe and Therese Sullivan. We're going to talk about Niagara 4.8. We're going to talk about the security dashboard. We're going to talk about the new ACE engine. We're going to talk about all the cool stuff that's packed into this new version of Niagara. So without further ado, Brent, how about introducing yourself and telling the community what you do?
All right. Hey there, everybody. My name is Brent Lowe. I'm a product manager here at Tridium, and I've been responsible. I've had my hands in a lot of different things. I work on the hardware side, the embedded software side, the edge side, and even some of the Niagara core working on the platform. So I've gotten to really jump in and learn the ropes here at Tridium over the past couple of years.
Very, very cool. And of course, our next guest needs no introduction. Formerly of buildingcontext.me, formerly the Queen of Silicon Valley, Therese Sullivan. Therese, tell our community what you're doing at Tridium now.
Titles. But yes, I'm still all those other things. And I am also Tridium marketing leader, customer marketing leader. And I manage marketing communications, but I also work to stay close to the customer and bring a lot of their perspective into the kind of work Brent does in product marketing. So I'm part of his team.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. And Therese, of course, Kenny and I are both thrilled, absolutely thrilled that you're with Tridium. And we think you bring so much value because we knew you before you came on at Tridium. But talk a bit about, because I think you brought a new perspective to, communicating with the customers. But, Tridium has always been so, customer centric. But talk a little about your philosophy and, and sort of how customers engage with you and how you engage with customers and sort of how that works and then how that sort of evolves around to things like the new product we're going to talk about in a few minutes.
Well, I think all the years that I was doing building context, I did meet a lot of customers. I did meet a lot of going to the various conferences, the Stanfords of the world, the Fords of the world, and I bring all that writing and interviewing that I did over those years to this job, and I get to meet all those people and going from conference to conference. And yeah, I was at Stanford like a month ago, and so you should get there, Eric. They've got everybody's product in, and as you know, because I'm still Queen of Silicon Valley, that's only like 15 minutes away to check out everything that they are. I wouldn't say piloting. I'd say they're really using in various buildings, including a lot of Tridium. So it's then, and it's kind of that go through. And now I don't do it alone as a journalist type person. I go in with more product management type people and account management type people. And so I get to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, as you guys always say. It's not always all good. It's not ever all bad. But buildings are ugly when you get down to the infrastructure.
Well, Therese, one of the things that we've always appreciated, even before you went with Tridium, was the fact that, a lot of it happens in Silicon Valley. And Brett, I want to get your opinion on this too. But, like it or not, the expectations of the younger people that are working in these spaces now, their expectations are really being set by what they're able to do with their smartphones and their home controls, right? So it makes a lot of sense that, understanding what's coming out of the West, could factor into, how you guys think about and design your product. But Brent, are you seeing that as well in terms of customers' expectations sort of being set or dictated by what they're able to do with their smartphones and their homes?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That the consumer market is really just is driving those expectations, and that's something that we've kind of taken to heart with our Edge program, and we've been releasing what we're calling Edge tools. And what we see those being are I guess enablers for people to get devices that are running Niagara up quickly on the network, get them commissioned, and get them running an application as quickly as possible. Because you go out and you buy a Nest thermostat or an Ecobee thermostat, and you get that thing up and running in minutes, right? And it doesn't take a lot of skill to do. And we want to make our edge devices, or devices that are running Niagara, very easy to install, very easy to get up and running. And so we've over the past number of releases of Niagara, we've put in a lot of new functionality, both on provisioning and what we're calling application templates to enable that type of functionality. So It's really cool to see.
Well, I want to hear more about that because I think the big problem, the big challenge is that doing the home's a lot easier than doing a building with all kinds of complicated, diverse systems in. So the fact that you guys are addressing that is really, really cool.
The expectations are like the mobile phone, and one of those is immediacy. And in the 4.8, the release we just did of Niagara 4 Edge 10, there's a functionality in there called the ACE engine, and that makes startup so much faster. Brent could probably say a little bit more about that.
I want to hear about that. So, okay, to sort of frame it up, we got a new release, 4.8, for our listeners who might not know. That's a pretty big release, right?
Oh yeah. So, on 4.7, we really focused on Edge 10 and getting that out the door, and, didn't really offer a lot for everybody in that release. But in 4.8, we've kind of circled the wagons and brought things back around, and it's a pretty comprehensive release that touches on cybersecurity, edge, and enterprise type customers. So we're really excited about it. I just released it a couple weeks ago. And what Therese was talking about with this new ACE engine, that's included in 4.8, and it's especially for Edge 10. And what this is, it's a deterministic runtime engine for edge devices, essentially. And it's a separate control engine that runs side by side with a Niagara station. And it enables both deterministic control as well as fast startup time. So what Therese was talking about with the immediacy. So if we kind of focus in on that one, that with a Niagara station, if you're running it at a supervisor level, you have a lot going on in that station with taking care of different field buses of controllers. And to have that station reboot or restart for one reason or another, it could take 5, 10, 15 minutes for that thing to come back up and start running. And at that supervisor level, that's probably not that big of a deal. Because you have those controllers on those field buses doing work already, right? And it's just reporting up to the supervisor. But when you have Niagara at the edge, it becomes really important to be able to come back up really quickly so you can start controlling that equipment quickly. So one of the features that's enabled by this ACE engine is the ability to restart a device that's running the ACE engine and have it back up and running, controlling I/O within 10 to 15 seconds. So that's a huge improvement over the minutes, the 10 to 15 minutes it would take to start up a station. So, that becomes critical when you're talking about Niagara at the edge, because you're dealing with equipment directly. You're connected directly to equipment that needs the correct signal sent to it at specific timing. So we're really excited about this feature.
That's huge. That's huge. And I want to really sort of, go through the new update, because I know you guys packed it full of stuff. But for, and just, Brent, so our listeners, a lot of our listeners are, existing Niagara contractors, so they completely understand about the edge versus the enterprise. Yep. We have a lot of consulting engineers, a lot of building owners tune in. This is where they sort of get, their information. So the edge concept versus the enterprise is kind of a newer sort of thing. So for our people who might not know the importance of edge versus enterprise, because Niagara and Tridium has always dominated the enterprise. You guys are, primarily an enterprise functionality, engine. But The edge is a relatively new occurrence, people pushing data out, pushing control out to the edge. Tell our community who might not know why this is important and why they should be doing a combination of both, quite candidly.
Yeah, I mean, so the supervisory enterprise level, we believe is always going to be there, right? But what we're starting to see in the industry is the need for, I guess, quote unquote, more smarts at the edge, right? And what we've been doing with Niagara is packaging it and getting it to a point to where you can take Niagara and push it down to the edge. And when I say edge, I'm talking about there's a lot of different definitions of edge out there. For us right now, I believe in this world, edge is running particular singleton pieces of equipment. So you talk about a fan coil unit or a VAV or an air handler, something along those lines. And so what we are doing at Tridium is pushing Niagara down to that level to allow you to control those specific pieces of equipment with that one tool that you know and love, right? Niagara. And so we believe there's a lot of benefit to that. So one is, kind of mentioned it, that single tool infrastructure. So you can walk into a building and go program your JACEs, go program your supervisor, and then go program your unitary controllers all with Niagara. You don't need a different tool, different laptop, a different person to do that. It's all about cybersecurity, right? So as the controller space gets more into the IP world, where IT is getting involved, where you're hooking up to Ethernet networks instead of obscure field bus networks, cybersecurity becomes very important. IT becomes involved essentially, and so having a system with the reputation and focus that we have here at Tridium on cybersecurity, protecting that equipment becomes critical. Yeah. And it's also about smarts, right? So analytics about our community who's out there writing really cool optimization functionality. All of that can go down to the edge now, and it doesn't have to exist just at the supervisor. Right. And so that's really, those are really the main value points that we're bringing with Niagara.
Cool. Well, listen, I want to hear more about the cybersecurity that you baked into 4.8, but before I do that, I wanted to talk about Therese's favorite four-letter word, data, because I think, data and data analytics, you alluded to that. Yep. And Therese, I mean, this is a trend that, we started talking about right after when you were building Context.me. And, part of it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I want you to talk me through this, Therese, is that using data analytics, if you're pushing up to the enterprise, that can make a lot of sense to do the processing up there, but there's a cost to putting it up there and using it, and there's a time delay and stuff like that. But talk about sort of the whole analytics part and why, having some data analytics at the edge makes more sense than having it go to the enterprise, if you would.
Sure. I mean, you packed a lot in there. I would say the first thing about data, the bullet point is that once you have the one tool, as Brent describes, what building commissioners and building operating engineers really want is to be able to look across. First of all, they want to be able to do analyses based on their query. They want all the data that to answer a specific query, being things like Brent's example of bringing on that fan coil unit. They want to go from the very high level, what's our monthly energy bill, to, hey, there was a spike. Why was that spike? And if it's down at the equipment level, that Brent mentioned, the fan coil, let's go down into the fan coil and find what the problem there is. And you can't get that edge to the higher level, looking across the whole portfolio at this meter data until you've got everything connected. And so the connectivity that Niagara at the edge brings just brings so much more data in. So that's the first thing about data and analytics, that you, yes, you're not necessarily bringing every piece of information in all the time. That's the other question you were getting at. Yes, something like the Niagara Edge 10 has a brain at the edge too, and it can say, that brain can say, this data send up to the cloud, and this data will process right here. It's situation normal. We're going to just leave it alone. So that's part of the edge story too.
Very cool. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think it links to sort of what you were saying about too, Brent. I mean, part of the thing about an enterprise, and then pushing the data down to the analytics is you have to have conductivity for that to work. And if I'm hearing correctly what Therese is saying, and Brent, you can expound upon this, the fact that you can take certain data points that are germane to that unit, be it self-diagnostics or be it tenant dependent, you can create rules or whatever and use the data to enhance the tenant experience there locally, regardless of whether you have conductivity or not.
Exactly right. So, that device is running full-blown Niagara. It can run Niagara Analytics. The data that it's processing to make decisions, those decisions can be executed on that device without someone else interacting with it. And so you just have, like Therese said, those brains right there operating that equipment and ready to adjust as necessary based on the data that's flowing through it.
Well, listen, and I want to cycle back to you, Therese, real quick, because I think it also gives the ability, and at one level, you could almost say that this is artificial intelligence because it's sort of rules-based. If this happens, then that happens, which is, to me, gets back to the John Petsy Sky Foundry type thing. You're writing rules so that the device is smarter. From both your guys' perspective, I mean, we're hearing things like, Therese, I think you were around, we interviewed Dr. Igor Mezek about the self-learning algorithms, and we're hearing about artificial intelligence and stuff like that. So kind of a two-part question. One being, it seems like if you're using artificial intelligence and you can, some self-learning algorithm, you can actually pack that in your edge controller. It's going to be a lot more efficient than trying to run artificial intelligence at the enterprise and to bring it down. And then secondly, what do you guys think about that? Is that something you guys got on the roadmap coming in the future, or do you already have it and I just don't know about it? And you'll have to kill me if you tell me, that type of thing.
I mean, I think that a lot of that vocabulary is a little bit slippery. And as you said, analytics, and Sky Foundry is a good example. I think everybody can draw that picture in the head when we hear that word. They're and Niagara Analytics. We have some built-in analytics too into these, and they keep getting better with each version of Niagara. But any analytics program, it's providing that ability to write an algorithm against this data. So the machine learning thing is you've got to, first of all, collect a lot of data that can be what you would consider training data. And to train those algorithms to keep getting better and better. And by the time artificial intelligence is one step further, that the machine learning, the idea that you can all of a sudden, based on so much data, say the best sequence of operations for this controller is here, let's keep it here. That's one level I think we can all understand because it's just the natural path of the controls industry where it's going. Artificial intelligence is another step, and some people just mix up the words, I think. But that's, I think, after there's so much training data collected, and it's collected at this massive level on every hospital building, there's just so much work to be done. We're not even there, like where we're collecting data on vertical types of buildings and then comparing them all and deciding how, what's the best way to run a classroom or a boiler in one casino in Singapore and the same kind of casino in Las Vegas. That idea of bringing up these massive amounts of data and then making that training data so we can make conclusions. That's in people's minds, but I don't think anybody's doing it yet.
All right, Brent, I have a question because the rumor is that, Therese is saying you could do it that way, or the other thing is you could just take Ed Merwin's brain and just download that into the controllers and it would automatically know what to do. So is any truth to the rumor that you guys are cloning Ed's brain and putting it in a chip called the Merwin 10-0-10-0?
Yeah, I mean,
don't
absolutely.
tell anybody about that.
Yeah, there's a whole lab, focused on that upstairs right now. 4th floor is where all the engineers are, and those guys are working hard to just clone Ed. So.
To clone it, to be the Merwin.
Ed
he's the Merwin. Ed sits there. He's got all the diodes all over his brain, and they're just trying to transfer.
Well, who was that? Ray Kurzweil or whatever, the guy that, true story. He was trying to, download his consciousness to a computer or something like that. But anyway, I digress. I sort of glossed a little bit over the whole ACE part of the 4.8. Brett, would you go back over some additional benefits of that? Because that sounds like that's a huge piece.
Sure. Outside of that fast startup time, there's another really key component to ACE. Essentially, it's about deterministic control, which becomes really important down at that equipment level. And I think a lot of times people mistake deterministic control with speed. While the ACE engine is really fast, the deterministic control really means consistency and predictability in how a control loop is going to operate. And so you create an application to run in a specific order and in a specific time frame. And what ACE is going to give you is the ability to have that algorithm run in that same order and same time frame over and over and over again. And that's not something that we've really been able to guarantee with Niagara proper, because there's things like garbage collection with Java that comes into play. There's things like a lot of people hitting the web server and network traffic affecting the CPU, et cetera. And what that can lead to over time is latency or jitter in the system, to where you could be reading information from a point, and it may just be off by a couple seconds to go to the next piece of logic. And over time, that could lead to things like burnout or wear out of equipment. So if you think about an actuator that is relying on very precise measurements from the I/O to turn one way or another, if that latency or jitter becomes too great, that actuator could start making just small adjustments back and forth. And it's not something that that end users are going to notice. They're not going to get uncomfortable because of that, but that actuator could wear out over time and lower the lifespan of that piece of equipment. So having this functionality of ACE down at that edge level, we wanted to make sure that we could offer that determinism for these edge type devices. And so that's the other big piece of ACE. It's quick startup time and also this deterministic control.
Very, very, very cool. And one of our favorite topics, and you guys got the wizard in the industry, Kevin Smith, is you mentioned that 4.8 is sort of chock full of some more cybersecurity type things. Or anything you could tell our community about regarding that, or anything they need to know?
Yeah, so you kind of mentioned cloning Ed earlier. We've taken Kevin's brain and we've kind of put it into Niagara as well.
I knew you guys were doing that stuff. I knew you guys were taking.
Yeah, so I mean, he kind of sits in that same lab sometimes right beside Ed, and we just kind of download things into Niagara.
Right.
But
I want to buy that chip and put it in my brain. Okay, just put me on the list to buy the first Merwin chip.
No problem, we got you. But yeah, as always, cybersecurity is right at the forefront of everything we do. We say that we're secure by default, and that's the truth there. And Kevin, if you see us at conferences, Kevin's out there spreading that word. And what we've done in 4.8 is kind of taken that all those things that we've done over the years with security by default, with downloading things from Kevin's brain, with the Niagara hardening guide that we have out there, and we've kind of made a visual out of it within Niagara. And so now we have this thing that's called the security dashboard. And you can use the security dashboard from either a individual station level or a supervisory level, where you can see the security posture of your entire Niagara network all on one screen. And you kind of get the green, yellow, red stoplight type functionality to say, hey, you have a problem, or you might want to check this out, or everything's good to go. So we're really excited about that. And we feel like, what we wanted to do with this was bring to the forefront security, right? So that somebody can quickly go to this dashboard and look to see, hey, I may not have something set up correctly or in a way that's been recommended for the most secure operation of Niagara. And it could be, nobody's particular fault. It just could have been left out of an implementation or whatever. But this gives you a visual indication or a key to say, hey, let's go fix that. And how do I go fix it? You can drill down from that dashboard and go fix these things. So really, really cool functionality that brings all those things that we've been talking about and that Kevin has been out there preaching to the forefront of Niagara.
Very, very cool. And, for our consulting engineers that are listening out there, you probably want to include this in your checklist, right? Your punch list, to make sure that, because it gives them a handy tool they can look at, show me where we're at in terms of security. So that's a huge piece. Well done, guys.
Yeah, very cool. Other things in 4.8 where we focused on security, we're also supporting 802.1x networks now. So this is a type of network that we typically find in large enterprises or universities where there is there's access control to get onto the network, right? So it's another level of security for a network. And as we get more into this convergence of OT and IT, we're going to see IT pushing these types of networks more on our integrators. And so what this, you can kind of think about it, if you're in a large office, you have a printer that's on the network. Well, it has to speak this 802.1x language in order to actually be on that network. And so the same kind of goes for the Jace, for the Edge 10, anything that you put on that network. And so we've enabled the Jace and the Edge 10 to be able to communicate on this network and allow that security and authentication. So that's something that a lot of our enterprise customers have been talking to us about, and we wanted to get pushed into the product for 4.8.
Oh, that's fantastic. That is fantastic, because you're right. We got, the IT and OT combining. So our integrators got to be more savvy, and you guys, obviously as manufacturers, are incorporating this in what you guys are doing. So well done on that. Well done. Exactly. For sure. And then I think the other thing too, Therese, I know you guys do a fantastic job for our community. You might not know, you guys are doing all kinds of training webinars and things like that. And plus, you guys send out all kinds of updates and bulletins. For our community out there that might not be on your guys' mailing list or aware of these things, what's the best way for them to sort of connect with you guys so that they can keep up to date and informed?
Right. Well, first of all, I would get on our mailing list, and the easiest way I get there, there's a special page, that we're all subject now to GDPR, the General Data Protection Rights Act that was put through in Europe. So we can't send you anything without your permission. And so there's a permission page, and the easiest way to access it is go to Tridium.com, and in that carousel slider that's on the homepage of the website, you'll see one of the pictures that flashes by is a microphone, like let us give you our news, a microphone like you got here, Eric. And you click on that, it takes you to the permission page, and then put in your email address and give us your permission, and we'll get you on the list for as part of the Niagara community.
Compliments to you guys too, because you guys do such great informative webinars. I mean, you really do a good job of keeping the community up to speed. But to your point, you can only keep them up to speed if people know that they're there and are willing to engage with you. So I'd encourage you to do that for sure. So again, is there a website that makes sense for them to go check that out at? So just
there's also the Niagara community website, but first there's Tridium.com.
Yeah, so that would be a good.
And then we have the new resource center. Once you're a community, we've got the on NiagaraCommunity.com, because there is also Niagara Community Church, and they might have .org. you might get lost on that page, and I hope you know how to do your gospel singing if you do. But I wish sometimes I really wish I was going to Niagara Community Church. That's somewhere up in Niagara, New York.
We've lost a lot of good integrators to that church.
But if you go to NiagaraCommunity.com, I believe, that's where you're going to be able to sign up for that. And then once you have that login, you have the resource center, and all the communications that we've ever done, you can search and look for on the resource center, and that was newly organized in 2019.
No, very cool. And one of the reasons you want to do that is because, and I don't know whether you can talk about this or not, Therese, but I'm going to put you on the spot anyway. There's going to be some big goings on in San Diego, California in 2020. Can you tell us anything about that, or is it still just?
It is not too early to start talking about San Diego.
All right.
In 2019. So we're
2020, right?
Oh, 2020. I'm sorry. What I mean now is 2019.
Yeah.
But by the time it's April, we're going to be in 2020, and we've got Niagara Summit 2020 in downtown San Diego at a Hyatt called the Manchester Hyatt. It's got room enough to fit us all. The Niagara community. We've got the gas lamp district across the street. People are planning events already. We're doing the big gala, and there's actually going to be a movie on the Midway so it's on the Midway aircraft carrier. If anybody's been to San Diego, that's really kind of cool. Both the hotel and the aircraft carrier have Niagara installed. So
Oh,
that's kind of
fantastic.
interesting because
So,
it's a
so,
museum.
so Brent, any truth to the matter that you're going to take the Midway out for a little spin with all our guests on it? It hadn't been out in a while, but cranked the engines up and then took everybody out for a little spin in the bay.
I'm sure we can make that happen and just install a couple edge tins in the engine room and get this
There you
sucker
go.
running.
And then with Kevin Smith, he'll just hack the security system so that we can get in there. Next thing you know, we're out there. But hats off to you guys.
I think that was an episode of Arrested Development.
It was.
Yeah, it was.
One of my favorite shows. If you've never seen the show Arrested Development, yeah, one of my favorite shows of all
There's
time.
Money in the banana stand.
There's money in the banana stand. That's right.
Money in the banana stand.
That needs to be a code word for us when we're talking about money. About some monetary type potential gain, like an opportunity. It's like there's money in the banana stand. So, but hats off to Therese. You guys do such a great job at those conferences. I mean, people that go, they continue to go back. For our community out there who might not have been, put this on your calendar because you'll get updated. You'll get around the smartest people in the world when it comes to this kind of stuff. And even your friends in Silicon Valley are impressed when they go there. They're a little intimidated. I mean, last time I was there, I saw Bill Gates, man, he's kind of shrinking in the corner a little bit because, Kevin Smith was so smart and all that stuff. But,
and we've had it in New Orleans for a few years, and we've certainly had them up in Las Vegas area, but I hope to get some of my California friends to be on the podium in San Diego. And plus, I think we're going to attract more of our Australian friends in this venue and people from APAC. So I think it'll be a real worldwide kind of event. We're going to put together, and I'm doing it as we speak, an advisory board of some of our really great customers, especially the specifying engineers and the end users that are really trailblazing out there with Niagara. To help design the education. And it's going to be a real community-driven event.
Yeah, well, no, absolutely. Well, you guys do a great job. It sounds like you're just even up in the game even more. And Brent, what are you most excited about when it comes to the event in San Diego and outside of driving the Midway or captaining the Midway?
Yeah, outside of captaining that, I think just getting together with the Niagara community, we were at the London Forum a few months ago, and it's always a fantastic opportunity just to get in front of the Niagara community, show them what we're doing, get their feedback, get their understanding of what's important, and then bring that back. I always come back jazzed from those conferences because everyone is so excited about Niagara and passionate about it, and that passion is infectious, and so it's fun to go to those and have everybody there, have all the engineers there, seeing everybody. So I think that's the biggest thing I'm excited about is just getting with the community, understanding what those needs are, and then continuing to push Niagara to meet those needs.
Well, you guys do a fantastic job. Therese, I saw a documentary the other day on the Gilded Age, which was basically when America changed, right? It was Andrew Carnegie and Vanderbilt and all those guys. And I was thinking about you guys vis-a-vis because what really made that difference was the railroad system. Without that, none of the things would have been connected, and it opened up all new economies, right? And I sort of look at you guys as the railway station, railroad tracks that run through our buildings and our universities and our
network that the common network that connects them all. Yeah,
you guys,
there's some truth to that.
Yeah, lots of stuff can be built off of that, just like lots of stuff can be built off of the railroad tracks, but you still had to have those tracks. So congratulations to you guys on that. Anything else you guys want to hit on before we hop off?
I would say if you're interested in learning more about 4.8, there's a number of training like vignettes on the Niagara University. So you can go log in, it's free. There's training courses on Security Dashboard, on ACE, and some of the other features that we've released with 4.8. So I think that's a really good spot just to go check things out and kind of see what we have to offer in the latest release.
Very, very cool.
And you can get to Tridium University again through the Niagara community by having that.
Yep.
That login.
So what I might ask you guys to do is just send me some links and we'll put them in the show notes so our people can find them really easily and all that stuff. But man, guys, keep up the great work. Appreciate you guys. Give Edmure one of our best. And by the way, Therese, very, very special thanks. As always, Tridium has come on as a platinum sponsor for the Control Trends Awards. So you guys have been with us since day one, every single year. The Control Trends Awards will be happening at BB King's combination Super Bowl party, Control Trends Awards down at AHR. And you guys are going to be in AHR, so I'm sure there'll be a booth there too. So another another place that people can interact with you guys. But thank you for your sponsorship and your support.
Yep, it's a community.
It's a community.
It's a community.
It takes a cybersecurity village, right?
Cybersecure, defense by default kind of community.
Absolutely. Guys, thanks so much. Have a great rest of the day, and thanks for coming on the show. Well, there you go. That's another week on Control Talk, Now Your Smart Buildings videocast and podcast. Special thanks to our guests, Brent Lowe and Therese Sullivan. I think you'll agree with me that they are really on the move and doing some great stuff. The man, the myth, the legend will be with us next week. As a matter of fact, I'm going to see him in Chicago at CGNA here. Leaving in a couple hours for that. That's Controls Group North America, where all the cool distributors come to play and get to be better. So we'll learn a lot up there. We'll give you a report and a breakdown on that as well. But until then, remember, be bold, stay in control, and stay relevant. And this is the part where Kenny goes, indeed. And I go, indeed, Kenny Smyers. We'll see you next week.